Okay, hi, my name is Jayne Silva. I'm a teacher in International House, and I'd like to tell you about Lexical Notebooks. Myself and my colleague Andrea are very passionate about using lexical notebooks with students. For me, it's a brilliant way of taking general English and all the language that students learn in general English and taking all that chaos, all that linguistic chaos, and organising it into a book. In my opinion, it helps to take the randomness out of general English, and with most of my students in general English and exam classes, I get them to organise their vocabulary in themes. So it might be health, crime, whatever they've learnt with their teacher. They go home at night and they write down the words or the collocations, the idioms, and the great thing about lexical notebooks is they have to write the meaning in English. So I tell my students to throw away translation dictionaries the first day I meet them. I encourage them to use Cambridge Online or a really good learner dictionary like Oxford Advanced. So they learn with the teacher, then they go home and they record the vocab in English. And this is fantastic because it teaches them how to paraphrase. The great Michael Lewis, who wrote the book, The Lexical Approach, said there are 3 stages. Students have to notice the lexis, record the lexis, and recycle. So it's like a deal with the teacher. The teacher helps the students to notice the vocab. They write it down in the evening, and the next day when they come back, they recycle with games. My students love all the recycling games I play with them, and they know that if they haven't written the vocab in their book, they're not going to win the game. So it's actually very motivating. So basically, if you're a good lexical teacher, everything you've taught your students should be in their lexical notebook in the evening, and then you bring it back the next day. So it's like a mutual deal. I have to say that for me, a lexical notebook is magical for students because what happens is their passive vocab becomes active. If you recycle it enough, students start using it naturally. Whereas if students just write their vocab in a big messy book and throw it in the bag, then it's gone. It's in one ear, out the other, never to be used again. If you are a teacher who encourages them to recycle it in a notebook and you recycle it with them, then they remember it forever. Active, not passive, and that's amazing. And possibly the greatest advantage is that my students think in English. They don't translate everything, they don't worry about translating everything, they think in English. And in my experience, my vast experience, 27 years as a teacher, I know that students who use lexical notebooks and think in English make progress far quicker, and it's just amazing. It's much quicker than students who translate.
Hi, my name is Andrea. I, like Jenny, work at International House as a teacher. The difference is I'm not mother tongue. I'm Italian, born, and I learned English as a second language like you did. Like you're doing, sorry. And when I was a boy, I loved lexical notebooks, and I was doing it all wrong because nobody taught me how to keep a lexical notebook. So what I did, I had this, something similar to this, and one column, individual in English word, individual Italian word, translation. One word as translation. So in the end, I didn't know how to use words together. So what a waste of time. And later on, as a teacher, I learned about how to keep a proper lexical notebook, and I agree with Jane. Translation is not necessary. First of all, you shouldn't record just individual words. You should record expressions in a sentence, underline them, and then maybe write different expressions, synonyms. And sometimes you don't even need to do that. From the context of the sentence, it's clear what the meaning is. And the good thing is that your mind doesn't go back to your own language. We're not translators. We're learning a foreign language. I love lexical games too. So for example, a game I use with my students is, and so they take the lexical books to class, and we create some gap fills. So maybe they have a sentence and they gap a word and they give it to someone else, and at the back you have the solution. So you give me the card, I see the gap, and I have to think about the solution, and then you can check, yeah, is the correct solution. So they keep recycling all this language. I used to make these cards, a lot of work, but then I thought, why don't the students do it themselves? So like you said, they go home, they have their language, they go to a good dictionary, they found another example sentence, and then they create their own cards, and then they play with each other. At the end, well, this is just 1 month or 3 weeks of advance. I do exam classes, and all these cards were created by my students. And you keep the cards there. You have them in class, and then sometimes they bring back the lexical notebook to class, and they use them. Oh, this is a nice sentence, and they record them again. And like you said, I think it's, we learn so much language, and it's a bit chaotic in our mind, but to have it in different sections in our lexical notebook. So, well, these are examples again from my students. This is work, personality. It's not just topics. Topics are very good. Sometimes I tell my students, why don't you have a section on pronunciation, typical pronunciation mistakes. So you write down a word you have a problem with in pronunciation, you write the phonemics underneath. Always the word inside a sentence, never isolated words. So you're not just focusing on that individual word. You think, how do we use that word in natural English? You're constantly exposed to good English that you wrote down or your teacher checked for you. Typical grammar mistakes. I have some students have problems with articles, so okay, I corrected your mistakes in your writing. Write down the corrected sentence there. And then sometimes you go back and you look at it again. Oh yeah, of course, I need to use the here. And also, I usually tell them to take the ring binders. Why? Because, I've revised this page for 3 weeks now. I know this, I know that. I remember it now, it's become active in my mind. What should you do? Just delete it. You got it now. And then you're going to add more examples. So it's like a working process. My students do it for their exam classes, it's 3 months, but then I hope we're going to do it forever. So, they keep studying, and it keeps changing. So what becomes from passive to active, they delete and they add new stuff. So really, really believe it's useful. And also, this is a ring binder, but we're going to see your students. Everybody has their own different one. I think it's a very personal thing, and it's nice to see how different students have different lexical notebooks.
This is Anastasia from Italy.
Hi.
And she's another general English student, and she's been taking study skills with me. And before this learning experience, she'd never used a lexical notebook. So can you tell us how the lexical notebook has changed the way you learn English and how it helps you?
Yes, well, when I'm finishing the course and coming back home, I usually write the new vocabulary and the new grammar and the new sentence collocation, because they help me to remember and to memorize everything. And it's better because every teacher told me that I'm improving my writing and my listening and speaking, because then I can just see my notebook without seeing the other, and so I can read again and try to memorize everything. Yeah. I usually use one color and a line.
So you highlight the important bits,
the important thing, what I think that is important.
Okay.
That's it.
And you've got lots of, so again, very good phrasal verbs, I noticed here.
Yes.
Yeah, phrasal verbs, excellent. So we've got here, get by. This was a lesson we did on learning languages, the difficulties of learning languages. So this was all in the context of learning languages. So we've got get by, survive in a language. Find out, discover. Catch on, understand something. Work out, calculate mentally. See, these are so brilliant, and this is so much easier, isn't it, than translating it into Italian?
Yeah, it's better.
It's better than translating it into Italian. And would you agree that when you learn these at home and you write them down, when we play the revision game the next day, it helps you to remember for the game? And how do the revision games help you?
Because if you don't do anything, I won't remember. I know that if someone maybe force me to remember, I can do this again and again.
Yeah.
It's better, yes.
It's better, yeah. Okay, and when you go home back to Italy, do you think you'll continue the notebook?
Yes, I think I will continue this, and also especially if I'm staying a long period without learning English, I want to read this again and again from the beginning.
Great. And will you, when you go back to Italy, if you say watched a film in English, would you, and you learned some new words, would you put them in the book?
Yes, I really want to.
You want to carry on?
To carry on, because it's a really good way to try to improve.
And would you say now, when you're looking for words in English, would you say you don't translate as much anymore? You're not trying to find...
No, because at the beginning, yes, because I didn't have too much vocabulary as now, and so now I really try to don't translate anything in my own language.
So, this is Madalena from Switzerland, and she's been taking a general English course, study skills, and she had never used a lexical notebook before, and when I met her, she was a translator, weren't you? Yeah. She was a translator, and I tried to persuade her to think in English. So can you tell us about your book and how it helps you?
Firstly, I had my things in one book, a bigger one, and like morning class and afternoon class all together, and it was like quite messy and not... I couldn't differentiate in between morning class and afternoon class. I was there opening the evening, like that. No, I'm not gonna revise. And then I changed. I bought this one, a smaller one, and it's only for afternoon class, and it's only for things I don't know. I don't put everything like for, I don't know, putting like everything, notes of the whole class, but only the things I have to improve and to study and to remember. Mm-hmm. And I chose this size because I like reading, and so if I have a smaller one, I can take it everywhere. If I go away for the weekend or in the tube or in a park or wherever, and I can revise. And I think it's interesting also to revise in other places, for example, with other people speaking around, because then you focus on it. And
what's your favourite bit? I'm very impressed with the phrasal verbs in here. Let's just have a look. Phrasal verbs famously don't translate into English, and Madalena found that very frustrating. They don't translate into any other language. And so we started to try to paraphrase, didn't we? So, okay, phrasal verbs are very, very difficult to define, and they don't translate into other languages. So Madalena is now very, very good at writing synonyms. So, for example, what we've got here, we've got put out a cigarette, extinguish. Pick up, collect someone from the airport. Try out, test an idea. Try on, test clothes. Sort out, put in order, organise. Get over, get better, context, health. Now, we learnt these phrasal verbs in a story, and I think that's very important for the teacher. We learnt these in a story, so she knows the context. And in this case, she doesn't need a whole sentence to remember, because she remembers the story. But this helps you to remember them, doesn't it?
yeah, and it's also easier, for example, if I have to speak and it doesn't come to my mind the word, I can explain it because I now have synonyms and I know how to paraphrase. So it's also easier for speaking or explaining.
Exactly. I think one of the great things about the Lexical Notebook, thank you for that, is that students learn to paraphrase, and that is so important. When Madalena used to write essays for me, they sounded translated, a little bit unnatural, and now it sounds like a student who's thinking in English, and I think that's the best thing a teacher can do for a student, get them thinking in English. And this book is very neat and tidy, very, very neat. And it's not just single words. She's got lots of different linking words for writing. So here we've got linking words that could be used in a discursive essay. So she's got, there is no doubt that, on the one hand. One of the main advantages is, a further benefit is, so it's not just for single items, it's for expressions as well. And again, she's got these in a context somewhere. It's very important that the teacher gives students things to learn in a context.
So you are Bruna?
Yeah.
Where are you from, Bruna?
I come from Italy.
You are me?
Yeah.
From
South Korea.
Okay, so you are not my student, you are Jayne's student. Can you tell me, when did you start keeping a lexical notebook?
I started when I started course with Jayne, because before I usually to translate all English words in Italian.
Where did you write them if you didn't have a lexical notebook? Did you write them in?
Yeah, I write only general English in the morning. In the afternoon I do less talk, so I don't care about vocabularies, don't care about the meaning in English of the vocabularies. I only want to translate, because at school in Italy we are teacher learn to you to translate. It's useful to translate. It's not useful to translate. It's useful if you take the meaning in English because you can remember the meaning and use the synonym if you don't remember.
It's like learning more, isn't
yeah,
it? You
because
learn one word.
if I don't remember a phrasal verb, I remember the meaning. So
Yeah.
I can use a synonym, a different phrase, but I can continue to speak in English and not stop and think about the translation of some words.
It's useful when you speak because you
Yeah,
can't stop
useful.
and check your
No,
dictionary.
so
What about you, maybe? Is it the same? You just start with Jane?
Yeah,
or-
Jane recommended me to develop my English skill is to write down lexical notes because I wrote down a lot of English words as well as I saw everything as well as the word I studied in school.
How do you organize your lexical notebook?
in the beginning part, I have general English in the morning, and
Yeah.
it's a mix of grammar and vocabulary. But sometimes we do things like this, a brainstorming of collocation of all the words correlated with holiday. So collocation and new vocabulary, and all exercise of pronunciation, like bit, but, both. So for improving your pronunciation. And in the middle part of the book, I have phrasal verb with the meaning of the phrasal verb, not the translation. The
I
meaning.
think it's useful to have also this little colored.
Yeah,
so you
I
can go
love this
quickly.
color, yeah. Because
Know
I
what
know
the
that
stuff is.
if I learn during the lesson new phrasal verb, I take and write
It's
quickly.
quick and you can do it quicker.
And in the final part, I have the song. I use lyricstraining.com. It's very useful because it's a video YouTube, and like karaoke, you have to put the words you listen. But this is wrong because I do this in my first week, and the translation is
Okay.
there is a translation, but now I do this with no translation, with the meaning in Oxford and word reference, if I don't know, and I can write the meaning of the word.
What about you? Is it similar organization or a bit
Yeah,
different?
it's similar. However, in my case, I try to write down whole sentence. It is more useful.
Yeah. Why is it more useful? I really believe that. But why do you think?
When
so?
I study in Korea, I just memory. How can I say this?
Memorize.
Yeah, memorize a lot of just English word.
Yeah.
However, I can't use the word in my book, in my conversation.
It's the same mistake I was making when I was
Yeah.
learning English when I was
Sure.
a kid.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
And if you learn the word inside the sentence, you don't just learn the word, you see how they use it
Context.
in a
It's
context.
also useful for phrasal verb because phrasal verb are maybe a lot of phrasal verb are different meaning in the
Yeah.
different context.
You
Like
can have
work
2 or
out
3
has 4
sentences.
meanings. We
Yeah.
learn that work out is for completely different meanings.
course.
So we have to write all the meaning of work out with example.
And we don't keep going back to our language because we don't care about language anymore, we're just focusing on one language. We're not translators.
It's not useful to translate. I can see this 3 weeks with Jane because now I think also my writing is improved because I try to find the meaning when I don't. It's very frustrating when you want to write something and you have the phrase in Italian and you don't have the words in English.
But that's the difference.
But now I'm going to use more synonyms, more.
When I started doing when I was a student, it just felt like, okay, I had the English collocations like coming out of my mind together, finally, instead of, comparing
The
those
verb,
parts.
the collocation,
Just come out.
the grammar mix.
Do you look at it again in the evening or
And
go back to it?
Yeah, every day I check
Every
it.
day.
Yeah.
And you can carry it everywhere, like Anastasia was saying, so you can
Yeah.
check in the bus.
And I am very competitive, so I want to win the game, the next day game. So I look to the vocabulary for a week, and we win.
Do you win? Yeah, I was going to say, you win it.
Okay, this is an example of the game we play every day. We learned vocabulary about the environment yesterday. So Min and Bruno have written it in the Lexical Notebooks. So here we are the next day, recycling it, and every day we begin our lessons like this. So hopefully they're going to remember because they've written it in their notebook. Let's see. Okay, this is a place where you can make cheap electricity.
Nuclear power stations.
Min, very good. Okay. What could be the result of this if uranium goes in the atmosphere?
Acid rain.
Acid rain.
Global warming.
But what?
Greenhouse effect.
Oh, from this particular situation.
Radiation.
Radiation. Yeah.
And
Caused by radiation. Release caused by radiation.
Illnesses caused by radiation. Very good. Okay. The Earth is getting hotter and hotter.
global warming.
Global warming. There are too many traffic jams these days.
Traffic conjunction.
Traffic congestion. Good. Gas, petrol.
Exhausted fumes.
Fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels. Well done. Yeah. Okay. Air pollution can lead to a certain kind of sickness.
Yeah, like pneumonia.
Pneumonia is an example of a sickness with your lungs.
Asthma.
Yes, which is an
Bronchitis.
example of
Respiratory
Respiratory illness.
respiratory illness. Brilliant. Okay, not petrol cars. Different kind.
Electric cars.
Mhm. There are too many mountains of rubbish in the world today.
Landfill sites.
Yeah.
Landfill sites, good. Polar bear, tiger,
Endangered species.
good. Okay. We need to divide up our rubbish.
Household separation
So separation
of
Household.
household waste.
separation of household waste. Yes, very good. Chopping down trees.
Deforestation.
Deforestation. Yeah, wow, it's good.
Solar power, wind power, water power.
Renewable energy.
Alternative energy.
Alternative energy. Okay, so who was the winner?
I think he's a winner. 5.
Some.
Bruno was the winner. So this game is very, very motivating. Students can play it in teams. We do this every single day at the beginning of every lesson. So the teacher needs to make a commitment to making lexical cards so that the students are motivated to record the lexis. Because they wrote it down in their books, see how well they've remembered it. This is from one day ago, they didn't know any of that vocab. So the game is very, very motivating, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.